Get ready to quit the build.
Here we go!
The QTB Crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno, Brad, and Nick.
What it do? What it do? We are back. The brothers McMuffins have arrived on the scene, back in their home base. What it do, guys? You're listening to the QTV podcast. I'm your host, Bruno, and we've got Brad. We've got Nick. We are ready to tell you all about the awesomeness that was our trip and stuff about video games, specifically the Game Awards that are coming up.
Boy.
Thank you, interested from the crowd. That's what is written right here on the soundboard. What's going on, guys? How was the flight back? How was the trip? You guys enjoyed it as much as I did? I had a great time.
So
you got the post-Vegas hangover, my dude. Like, I am just like, no,
that airport
not from
beer.
I'm missing it, right? We had such a good time that, like, it's back to normal life, and you're like, man, Vegas was a nice little getaway, right, Nick?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. That's that part I get. I'm the only one who had to deal with a time zone change, so I went backwards and forwards 3 hours.
You were literally time traveling. How did that feel?
I was time traveling, and also that was one of the most stressful traveling days of my life. So on
the way back or the way there?
On the way back. No, the trip in was a very easy trip, but on the way back, my flight got delayed because I was at Tropical Storm Nicole or whatever. Was coming in,
and I told her to simmer down, but she didn't want to.
Nope.
And I live with her. Okay, listen, I live with that tropical storm.
There's some irony in there for those that you don't know, because that is the name of Bruno's wife, who also was with us on that trip. And so so the connecting flight was in Houston, and I had even if the flight had been on time, I would have had about maybe 30 minutes to make it to the next gate to leave for the next flight. And I learned the hard way that United does not care if a flight is delayed. They will send it on time. And so we got delayed because of the storm. Yeah. And so they try to, exactly. Our flight got delayed coming in. We had to stay in the air for a little bit longer because of the rain. And then by the time that we landed and actually I got out of the plane, because I was in the very back, I had maybe 10 minutes, maybe less, to make like a 15-minute travel time to the next terminal. And so your boy sprinted. I got there with like seconds to spare before they cut off that.
You closed the door and closed the gate and said, "We're out of here." Yeah,
I mean, it was, and you guys knew it was when I was in that plane. I'm like, oh, I made it, thank goodness, because there were no other flights going to my destination. But
so little did Nick know that he was a part of filming Planes, Trains, and Automobiles 2, starring Nick from QTV.
Am I John Candy? Please let me be John Candy. Yeah. Yeah. Russell knows. United cares a grand total of 0. Yeah, I learned that the hard way, buddy. So I'll re-strategize my airfare approach next time. But man,
we gotta get you to book direct. We can't have you book third party next time, Nick. I think that
Expedia
was part of the
not. And look, your boy took the easy way out, and that's what ended up happening. So. It's been an amazing a trip for us, and what I will say is that rather than to go in depth of all the behind the scenes stuff, for those that you may not know, we went out to Las Vegas, Nevada, to meet with our sponsor, Winner Right there at their warehouse. Exactly. Yeah, Bruno's got the hat. Winner's in the chat saying, "Hey, nice hat, Brad." There you go. What didn't we do? We recorded content. We had live streams from our network partners. We went to some arcades and did some live content and some other stuff there. Got to collaborate with a lot of amazing other content creators that are also affiliated with Winner. I mean, Brad, it was just it was an incredible week, wasn't it?
It was jam-packed nonstop from the moment we got there to the moment we left. I think we maximized and squeezed out every minute of juice that we could. Being at Winner, we recorded some exclusive Patreon bonus content for our Patreon listeners. You've already gotten to check that out, I think. There was a behind-the-scenes Vegas episode we recorded. So, yeah, no, Nick, it was it was a blast. And as you've seen, we've posted some of that content so far, and it was so fun to be there and to collaborate with Winner and have a great time and really get a tour of their facility and see the base operation of how amazing their app and what it takes to make that app run each and every day and be a part of that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the behind the scenes stuff. I think that we as gamers love to play different types of games, but to actually interact with the app and then see it kind of happen in real time at the warehouse, stick our hand in front of something and then mess with whoever was playing, was a
Joel.
blast.
Kung Fu Penguin.
Yeah. So if you want to see us mess with Joel and some of the other streamers and whatnot, then be sure to check out, of course, Winner on TikTok, as well as our TikTok and our Patreon, right? We've got stuff on there. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's just the great thing about, going out there and kind of recording some stuff is that we have some content to give our fans and just, kind of share that experience with them, which I had a great time. I'm not big into flying, but, I enjoyed every minute of being out there and kind of collaborating, and it was jam-packed from the minute we got there to the minute we left. I don't think, we really sat down too much and just didn't do anything. There was always an agenda. And with Mr. Logistics over here, we got a schedule to stick to, and he's going to get us there. Believe me, he's like doing, time math, working backwards over here. Brad's like, okay, listen, if we need to be here at this time, then we've got to leave here at this time. So meet me in my room at this time, and we will leave here approximately. And I am just like, thank God that he knows what's going on, because I have no clue.
Yep. Every
Vegas
group
seems
needs
straightforward, but as you know, we took like 8 million different ways around to get to the same spot each day. So traffic was variable, and so was our routes. So and right, Bruno, you lucked out. The room had a bath, right? So you're able to soak in every night after a long day, and we got some good food. You got some of what you wanted. You flew in. You got your in and out. You got a few other things, throughout the week. It was good, man. We had a blast. It was good.
Yeah. I gotta have in and out. That's my thing when I fly. And if it's there, gotta grab it. Nick, that was your first experience with In and Out, right?
It was, and I will say that,
was that?
it was amazing. But I will say this, that a lot of that, like the first 3 days, I think. Yeah. So those of you that may not know, on our Patreon, we did a whole bonus episode where we got together and said, "Hey, we're in the same space. It doesn't happen often. Let's record this bonus content for our patrons." Where we really go into depth of like the food we ate, like the things that we visited, and some really, really cool stories that we're only going to tell on Patreon. So that's, and we'll be plugging it later, but you might wanna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's some stuff that happened that even I'm surprised I pulled off, and that all of us did really. But
I will be telling these stories to my kids, and they will be telling it to their kids. You live on forever. The most famous, obviously.
Here's the new saying: what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas and is on Patreon.
And is on Patreon. I'll tell them to update the slogan. Yeah, for sure.
The slogan when you're driving, the sign should say that.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. Oh man. Well,
all the fun without the infidelity. That's what we say. That was the coined term by Brad, and it was very much adhered to.
Coming to you soon on a throw pillow for your couches in your living room.
Right?
Quit the bill. All the fun.
Yep. I can see it cross-stitched and put into a frame for every home, Home sweet home.
With our 3 avatars on it.
Nice. The merch.
Hey,
these days the merch ideas.
Department. Can we get on that?
Hey, where are those guys? Kathy. We got Kathy. We got pillow ideas, Kathy. That's right.
We're gonna need you to go overtime with the cross stitch here.
It's all hand. Don't tell them that. They'll think they're getting something totally different. Oh man.
I mean, I'm not sure what she's putting together over there. So
Yep.
Well,
Bruno.
and just to kind of rein it home, I think, Nick, one thing it made me appreciate is, we live in such an advanced world of gaming these days, right? And it was great to get back and kind of get to our roots, right? Of the first games I experienced as a kid being in arcades, playing claw machines and other games, that it really, it kind of gets back to your roots. So I think that was really a blast in that sense as well, to be able to do some fun things that I hadn't done in a while and kind of remember, kind of get that nostalgia part going as well while we were there. So
it's nice to play games in person, man. We're definitely in that era of digital gaming, and that's one of the beautiful things about when you can find an arcade that does accommodate that kind of thing, is being able to just meet up with your friends like we did, and just play some fun games. And like I said, I mean, a lot of that got covered. And we're releasing content over the coming weeks about our the games that we did play and little snippets and show you, because I mean just the Mario Kart rivalry between you two is I've never seen two grown men just get so immersed into the world of arcade GP Mario Kart, but it was commentating it was worth every second. I was honored to be there. Still Verstappen versus Vettel over here,
The item loadouts were slightly there was a little bit of an advantage there. I had no boost. Let's not, we're not going to go there.
There was a skill gap issue. There.
Oh, okay.
And
as the kids say these days, diff. DIFF. Skill difference. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Well,
that was what it was. There was, I mean,
it's fine. We can move on. Let's get to the Game Awards.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you, before we get into that, we do want to play one place where you definitely won't rage quit, and that is, of course, our amazing sponsor at Winner. You already know what I'm talking about. Brad's wearing the hat. I even got a little claw on my microphone here. Look at this thing. Yeah, compliments of Claw Dude. Thanks, Claw Dude. So yeah, guys, Winner is the place to be if you want to play amazing live arcade games from anywhere you like on your smartphone device. I'm talking about claw machines. I'm talking about classic arcade games like Whack-A-Mole, Stack the Blocks, and even some of the tried and true mobile games, word games, skill-based games that you enjoy to play for tickets. Yeah, he's trying to catch it. You can see there, Bruno cannot catch that token because it is an unrealistically tiny claw, but also that's what most claw machines are like when you're out in the arcade. We learned that when we were playing with the big claw machines. You just can't catch those things.
Pay to
and
win.
That's the beauty of Winner. Yeah, because every catch you can win because it is a skill-based claw machine system that they have there. So go ahead and download the app today using the link in our show notes or description on the podcast, and you're going to play until you win for free. That's right, until you win for free. That first dub is guaranteed, as our new jingle says, which if you haven't heard yet, you got to get on the TikTok. Oh man, it's a goodie. And of course, if you use pay.app.winnerwinner.com, type in that URL, log in with your account, and put in promo code Dale, you're going to get that sweet deal because you're going to get a bonus 30% tokens versus purchasing in the app. So get those bonus tokens. Tell them Dale sent you. Tell them Token sent you. There you go. And to Kung Fu Penguin, who we just mercilessly trolled on our last live.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, buddy. He got some prizes, though. I mean, he did okay.
He got
did
some
good.
prizes.
He did real good. Yeah.
He did. We had to mess with him.
We got him, and we were just looking on the on Winner's account there. The first video they posted of us, the one where I used the grabber to pull the skull out of the claw. I just pull it down. It goes down to the floor, and then Ryan runs over and records his reaction. It was so funny. And they're going to be releasing more of those too. It went viral too, like over 1 million views. So. I told Ryan, all this time you've been posting videos of giving people wins. Really what the people wanted is you taking the wins away.
Yep. That's
the exact opposite.
They want to see merciless trolling in their app.
That's how you sell products these days, I tell you. Welcome to the future, 2022. Everything's backwards.
It should be an asterisk right here. Winner until Ryan takes the win away.
That's right. Unless you're Kung Fu Penguin. And he says he volunteers as tribute. Yes, Winner saying the most laughter we've ever had in the warehouse. That was a legendary night. I know they're going to be posting the donut drop thing where I think they somehow got me into the donut drop machine.
I can't believe you got in there.
Yeah.
That to me was amazing.
As winner knew when we all got there, it was pretty clear that Nick was going to be the one to try to squeeze into the machine. Out of the three of us,
yes.
It was not going to be me. It
No.
was not going to be me. I couldn't even dream to fit into some of the supercars that we saw when we went go-karting, let alone one of the actual
a small prize
machines. Yeah, exactly. I'm not kidding in there. Like, it's
I don't
not
know.
happening.
You could be in the big one that we saw at Excalibur, Bruno. You can be in that one.
Yes. Now that one was really cool. That was like the biggest claw machine I've ever seen in my entire life. And I still have yet to see someone win one of those prizes. It'd be amazing to see. I don't think it's possible. But
Yeah.
that's why we've got the winner app. I mean, seriously, sometimes I'll go on there and I'll just be like, I'm just going to play till I win. I ended up getting the first try and I was like, well, that took a lot less time than I anticipated. Like I need more time here. Like I gotta, thought I was going to fail a couple times and realized I was going to knock it out of the park first try. But you know.
It's like when you're playing with the boys, right? Playing some video games, and you're like, okay, we'll play until we lose, right?
Yeah,
that's got to be your mentality when you play the app. Is we're gonna play until we lose.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the other way around. So funny. Listen, amazing stuff. Winner did mention, and I will bring this up since we're, if there's one time we're going to be talking about winner, a little bit more than you might be accustomed to. It's after this amazing trip. They said, what about the time when y'all got recognized at the arcade? Yeah, that happened.
Oh, wow.
We were at, was it New York, and we had a fan that recognized us, and he was a little shy, so his...
Shout out to Jonathan.
Jonathan, that's right, yeah. His mom came up and was like, hey, he's a huge fan, so we took some photos with him and gave him a shout out on the live, and that was kind of a surreal moment for us, because it's like, wait a second, like, we're people know us. Okay, cool.
We're just not throwing content out into the void of the internet. People actually are getting it on the other end.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see the numbers, and we see a handful of comments or this or that with within the realm of whatever we're doing, and then there's the repeat names that we see, and we're like, oh yeah, we recognize that person, but. It just goes to show you that there are lurkers out there, right? There are people that are listening that aren't necessarily engaging with your content. And we just want you to know that if that's you, if you're out there listening or, afraid to join in the conversation, don't be. We have a very open community here, and that's what Quit the Build is all about. Don't be afraid to kind of, step up and say, hey, because we try to be very approachable. Yeah, exactly. We want to be approachable, and there's definitely a lot of people within our community that share the same values as we do in terms of being a non-toxic environment. And it was just great. It was a lot of fun to go into the arcade and to play just the millions of different types of games that they have, regardless, of what it may be, whether it's a claw game or not. I mean, we had a epic Pac-Man battle. That was on the battle royale with some janky controls. That's part of the fun of any arcade, the janky controls where you're like, okay, something's wrong here. Who's
getting the wonky stick? Yeah.
Yeah, we had several battles with winner over the few days on many machines. Pac-Man, racing, a little basketball shoot, and
I'm still stinging from that loss on the race there. They knew something that I didn't. I'd never played that before, and they all saved their boost to the very last bit. And then at the very end, it was just like, zoom right past me. And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Didn't even see it, baby.
Take notes, man. The arcade racing scene is alive and well. Yeah, Asphalt still putting out titles there. So there you go.
Shout out to Rachel from Winner. Bruno found another F1 fanatic. So I mean, there's just relationships and building across the week with Winner was a blast, and looking forward to maybe hopefully doing that again sometime in the future. So
definitely, definitely,
and
more things coming from us. Yes, collaborations with us and Winner. That is a definite happening. So we just want to thank them so much for making us have a really great trip. Like, it was just fantastic, and can't thank them enough. So great people there, and we fully support everything they're doing. They fully support us, and so it's just been a great partnership so far, and we're excited to see what more they produce, and we're just going to keep on plugging along like we always do, which I guess is the perfect time to kind of segue into something. So here's the segue.
Oh yeah, we're a video game news podcast, right? Okay, so hey, every now and then you just got to push the button. You can't find the segue. Yep. So that's why they invented stingers.
That's why it's there. It's there. Yep. And here we go.
Yeah. All right. So the big story for today, and kind of the story for today, is we're talking about the Game Awards, because the Game Awards 2022, the nominees have been announced. Honestly, I got to tell you guys, this is a big month for gaming in general. This is kind of kicking things off. We've also had, Sonic Frontiers has come out. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as of us recording, is it's a couple days away. And, there's a lot of big name titles that are coming out or will be coming out, right? God of War just launched, which actually made this list, what we'll talk about in a second. That, we
surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say this, that when you look at the gaming industry as a whole, this year, the games have been backloaded in terms of when games have actually come out. Now, as far as the Game Awards are concerned, I think their calendar goes from November 1st to like October 31st or something like that. So there are, and it happens where like Elden Ring came out really early in the cycle, but then you had the games that came out late that still made the cut in their eyes. And of course, like any award show, they announce who they will be nominating well before the actual show itself. And this is kind of the big, as far as an award show for video games, this is kind of the one and only. It's really what E3 used to be to video game expos. These guys are not only to awards, but also the reveals. They picked up a lot of the slack that E3 has left behind in being able to be there with the world first exclusives. And I think that's what a lot of people tune in for. We'll talk about that too. Yeah. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it and kind of go around and get some reactions here on, the categories, what made the cut, what should have made the cut, and from our audience as well. Let us know what you think, because I think this is going to be a really good conversation between everybody here. So let's just go right into the first category, which it's the big one. It is the game of the year. And what I'll say about this is that there are some interesting omissions, and it's a bizarre category. Bruno, Brad, and I were just kind of talking about this in the pre-show about just how like live service games tend to just get left behind. But I'll leave that, because I something tells me, Brad, we got a really good Bruno rant brewing on this one, huh? What do you think? What do you think? What are the odds?
I have my own little anecdote to fill in here, but I'm going to give the floor to Bruno, because I feel like you're right. I have an inkling that Bruno's got his a mini rant, if not a full-on rant, to get us kicked off here with the Game of the Year category. Bruno, here's my segue to you.
So first of all, if you know anything about me, you know that I don't really like award shows. I think that they are the epitome of superfluous pomp and circumstance, right? Like it has no meaning to the real world, but it's a nice title. It's a nice title to have. And I say this with the utmost respect to the Game Awards, should they ever consider us in the future to be one of the many people on the U.S. jury for selection, then I will hold my tongue in that respect. But I will say that you got to take every nomination, every win with a grain of salt. The same goes for the Oscars, right? It's not necessarily an indication of the best film or the best video game that of that year, especially, I will say maybe it's not the most popular, right? You might say it's the best in terms of like what was produced that year or what was released that year. But I think in terms of popularity, that's never going to be there's never going to be a correlation between those two things, right? Yeah. I would say, and that's, kind of something that you hinted at before, which was live service games kind of getting the shaft when it comes to game of the year. And I think that's a problem, because I think that we're only going to have more live service games in the future, and the pickings for game of the year, the nominees, right, are going to be slim. And that's what it kind of felt like when I looked at the nominations for game of the year. It felt very lopsided. And I felt like there was more that was released this year, but it feels like it's kind of a one-sided thing. Like we're just showcasing, albeit mainly a lot of Sony stuff. We've got Horizon Zero Dawn on there, and God of War, which just released. I think that says a lot to have a game that just released to be on game of the year. I feel like that's a little soon to really do that. But then again, the devil's advocate in me that has been instilled so lovingly by Brad says, well, if you wanted to be on game of the year, then maybe you should have released more exclusives. But additions like something like Stray, make me wonder, are they really being inclusive by including something like this indie game? Or are they just throwing it a bone, knowing everyone knowing in reality that God of War is going to beat out Elden Ring? Whether or not that's indicative of which is the better game, which is a game that you can play for longer periods of time, right? Like there's so many aspects, I feel like, on how one can judge a game of the year, that it's really because we don't get to see the scorecard, right? We don't get to see the sheet of how it was judged. It's really hard for me to put faith in any type of award that's given. That to me seems like a lot of marketing and pandering go around. I feel like at the end of the day, there's always the pandering of these types of things, even though it may not have started out that way. It may have started off with the ambition to be truly neutral. I don't think that's something that you can ever really be when you're trying to appease people. Even the Academy, it tries to appease people based on the climate, right?
But Bruno, then what games could have been that aren't on this list that were omitted that would have made you feel like it was more neutral? Like what would have been added here or been taken away?
I think I personally think Horizon Zero Dawn was a little mismatched in terms of its comparison to. I think Elden Ring was a better. Just an overall better experience in terms of like the open world aspect. And I think that Horizon Zero Dawn maybe shouldn't be on that list. I had mentioned something to Nick about, Halo Infinite, and that might surprise a lot of you considering how much I've bashed Halo Infinite's multiplayer. But I feel like that 343 is really divided the two to have, a full campaign experience minus the, couch co-op, right? Set aside the multiplayer. The multiplayer is completely separate in that respect. I feel like it wasn't entertained. I feel like that wasn't even an entertainment of an idea that Halo Infinite can win. And I agree that I think, like Nick said, maybe it was a little lackluster in comparison to, the other games, but looking at everything that's been involved here, I would say, wasn't Forza Horizon 5 released this year?
Forza Horizon 5 won awards on the last Game Awards.
Okay, so it was at the tail end. Yeah, it was at the tail end. And see, and you're right, that's where it gets murky. Like, I feel like maybe the cutoff should be sooner so that we have a better idea of what games really are considered part of the 2022.
We should have an analytics department look at our analytics department. We need that group of people.
Brenda. There's also HR.
Look at. I think you make an interesting point there, Bruno, to correlate game release date to percentage of winning the awards. So it would be interesting to see if the more awards are won with games that are released right before the awards versus ones that have been out for 6 to 8 months. I think you could maybe to do some correlating data that shows maybe a correlation between that what you're saying.
You know, and I think for me, really, you know, and I'll push this over to you, Nick, because you mentioned that there's a category, but I think I personally think like leaving live service games off of the list makes a statement, and it also neglects the work done on these releases to keep people enticed in a game. So, for example, Fall Guys, you know, released on Xbox this year. Mm-hmm. Apex Legends had a huge update, and Fortnite continues to release these updates. Now, there is a category you mentioned, ongoing game, right?
Yeah.
But should that be separate, or should the game of the year include the most popular games of that year, regardless of their release date? You know, personally, I think that's how it should go. What's your view on that?
The way that I'm looking at this right now is that, if anything, Sony's strategy to shy away from live service, they do live service games. They've tried Babylon's Fall, which ironically fell. But I mean, they have, you know, for the most part, they're heyo. But for the most part, they are still aiming for those console exclusives to be narrative style. We talked about that many times on the podcast. Yep. And it seems like those types of games really get favored for Game of the Year. I'm looking at the list right now. And for those of you that may not have actually seen the article, the nominees right now for Game of the Year, A Plague Tale, Requiem, which I believe just came out, Elden Ring, no surprise there, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
And I'll be honest, I've not even heard of The Plague Tale. Didn't even realize that was not even on my radar as a released game. I've not even heard of that. So the fact that came out of nowhere seems to me like a scrambling for ideas of like, well, we've got to include something on the list, and people are going to think it's a joke if we add Halo Infinite. So let's add this new game that recently came out that's pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of agree with Brad. Like, and we had Terry in the chat saying, you know, do you think game companies take award season into consideration when releasing a game? Brad, what's your thought on that? I mean, I would say from a marketing perspective, definitely, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those we've talked many times on the podcast about how to have a successful release and the hype behind a game. I mean, if you time that correctly and there's enough hype around your game and the release time's right, and then you go right into award season, it's probably there's got to be some bias in how people subjectively see that game and can vote for that game in terms of the awards versus others that have been kind of more mature out in the market and maybe aren't fresh on people's minds, right? I mean, it's all about the narration of your release and your story that you're telling, and I think timing has a lot to do with that, about how it's perceived. So I think the chat's on to something. I mean, I would love to pull the data and say, okay, for Game of the Year, let's look at the last 20 years and check the release date of that game that year and see if there's like more games that win Game of the Year are released right before the Game Awards versus ones that have been released early in the year, whatever those cutoff dates are. And you can basically create a correlation and see if that's true or not.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to know as well, because I find data very interesting along with Brad, and it'd be neat for me to see how many nominees over the years came from each platform, whether they were a PC only game or if they were an exclusive to a certain console. You know, I think that it's really hard to move forward with these types of awards when the landscape of gaming is changing so much, where we've got live service games, we have console exclusives, right? Like, you know, so many people don't play a game of the year, not because it's not good, but because it's exclusive to a console they might not have. You know, people are still trying to get PlayStation 5s.
Yeah.
You know, that's still an uphill battle for a lot of people. Same with Xbox Series X. You know, you might be able to go in to a store and find the Series S, but The Series X is a little harder to come by. And I think that with those changes in mind, it's something that to me, I feel like there's a missed opportunity, right? For those games that continue to produce content there and support their community and, have something to give that's different than just like, oh, well, we created this one-off experience. Here you go. Maybe Game of the Year, it could be more encompassing. Maybe there should be no Game of the Year and they should do live service Game of the Year, single player Game of the Year, and multiplayer Game of the Year. I wouldn't mind that. I think that would merit a lot of things. It would also give things like maybe indie Game of the Year, right? Like, where we've got these other categories that are really specific. And I know they have like, the best shooter, right? Like the best, but the Game of the Year is the title that everyone wants. That's right. That's what sells. That's what's going to, bring in the bucks. That's what's going to give the marketing department, the itch to say, hey, how about we slap a Game of the Year edition on this game and re-release it 9 months down the road, even though we've not really done anything to it. Right. Except change the box. Now it's holographic, guys.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, Bruno, you're raising a lot of good points here. And to further specify, when you would ask me the question earlier about, live service versus kind of one-off single-player experience, or just, non-live service anything, here's the thing, is that I think you're right. I think that is the best solution if we were going to be actually fair about how we approach handing out awards. That just don't have a Game of the Year. Just have sorted by certain things.
Yep.
So that, because what that does is it cheapens it of being like, okay, well, you won the best ongoing live service, but you weren't even nominated for Game of the Year. And then what happens is that these narrative heavy games, they sweep categories, right? Because now they qualify for the best music, the best direction, all these different categories that anybody can get. They end up, it's like when you have the Oscars or the Emmys, where that one movie or show tends to just run the table with nominations across the board and win a lot of them too. And that could exclude people. And I think you're right, because I think that honestly, and this is my hot take on the list, Stray should not be on that list. I'm saying that simply because it's a good game. It's a pretty brief game. It's a great concept for a game. I love narrative type games like that have you approach it in unconventional ways. But I don't see why it should be there. And now, and it didn't really pull that well. It got like in the low 80s on Metacritic. When Hades made the list, I think it was in 2021. Hades deserved to be on that list. It's a beautiful game, tons of narrative. A small but very effective team created that game. It's a masterpiece, and the scoring is very high. I want to say somewhere in like the low to mid 90s. That for the Metacritic score, and of course the user score you have to factor in as well, that it should have been there. Everyone knew it wasn't going to get that award, but at the end of the day, beyond it being a marketing tactic, does it really matter? I don't think it does. Terry, aka the Duda Spunk, asked this in chat, saying, do you think that game developers release these games with the intent of trying to sync it up to be just before, the Game Awards so that they can qualify to get on that list because it can be part of their marketing push? I'd say absolutely. I would say absolutely, because we don't really know the inside baseball of what it looks like to a sales department or to a spreadsheet when, you get these awards and what kind of, but most of the people that have been doing this, industry veterans, know, and I can guarantee you that, the timing of the release of Ragnarok relative to the awards definitely mattered, because people knew that game was going to be a commercial success. That is a flagship series for Sony. It can't afford to do poorly, and it definitely came out swinging. I also agree with you, Bruno, that I don't think Horizon Forbidden West should have been on there. The second entry that this is, it's not the original. It did significantly worse with the reviews than the first game. So I just don't see why it should be. Yeah,
I've seen the gameplay. It's a little clunky. It's slower and not as smooth as something like Elden Ring. The dialogue isn't as great. And you're right. You mentioned something. Like different aspects of games, right? Like music. And I think about somebody like Fortnite, right? And you think to yourself, well, Fortnite isn't really known for their music or their score. No, but they are known for well, they may not be known for this, but it's a little known fact that they recently created an AI generating music thing, radio essentially, that produces music that isn't copyrighted so that streamers and content creators can listen to those tracks without getting flagged because there are real songs on there. So they've got a whole new system to create music with their game, but that's not going to be considered in any of this in terms of technological innovation. I agree with what we had said in the beginning of this entire thing, that the Game Awards seems like a new way to basically showcase new games, right? Yeah. It's a new way to showcase what's coming up. I think that it's a lot of he said, she said of this game should be it, or that game, should be it. I don't think that it's necessarily indicative of the most popular game of the time. I think that, obviously they favor, like you said, those narrative based adventures, and it's a shame that some of the other games, that are released during those times, like Ollie Ollie World, even though it didn't, hit, huge heights or anything like that, it still took a risk in terms of the design and the overall gameplay that it has. And I don't know. I think that you're right. Anytime we put a label of game of the year on there, it's disappointing. It just kind of cheapens this. If you play that game, congratulations. But looking back on the years past, a lot of the game of the year games weren't even some of my favorite games to play. Looking back at those things, and the same goes with movies, right? Like if you look back at the best pictures throughout the years, there's only one that to me that really comes to mind that I'm like, yeah, I still watch that to this day. It's a good movie, and that's Rocky, right? I'm all over Rocky, and that won best picture. So
sure.
I mean,
that's funny.
That's my go-to. I think I have a Rocky thing in here.
He's looking for it.
I've got something.
Yeah, he'll find it eventually.
I'll find it.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking for it, I'll say this. We've spent a lot of time talking about Game of the Year, and I think what really reinforces your points here, Bruno, is that when you go into the individual categories of best action game or best ongoing service, that's where I think the matchups get really interesting. Like I really do want to see who gets the award for these games. I'm looking at, best art direction, best score and music, best performance for a voice actor or actress, in terms of, or even just games for impact, right? That have a social meaning or a message. Brad, are there any categories here that are speaking to you as terms of what you want to see, who comes out on top, or who you think should come out on top?
Or best community support is another one, right? We talk about games that, especially live service games, where there's a element of where things can go wrong, and you want to be able to have community support, in terms of responsiveness, transparency, inclusivity on social media, how they respond. So I think, and some of the, Fortnite's in that category, and I'm interested to see it along with Apex and Destiny 2 and No Man's Sky. So, I'm looking at kind of not just we talk about, like you said, Bruno, the game of the year is the trigger phrase, but there's a lot of new categories, I think, in gaming, especially what we like to talk about, positivity, inclusivity, support for our community, that I think there's some other award categories that to me could be more meaningful than just being game of the year. So I think for me, that really stands out.
And it's hard to change that, right? Like the whole thing is called Game of the Year Awards. So without having a game of the year, it kind of really puts a pin in the whole system that you're creating. I think that I mean that's first and foremost. Obviously, everyone's thought of that, right? Like, well, if you're not going to have Game of the Year, then why call Game of the Year awards? But I think that it kind of cheapens everything else that's won or that's done in those. I look forward to the reveals. Right. That's what I want to see. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of which, are there anything that you're looking forward to? For me personally, I'm hoping to see something from Forza Motorsport. Right. Like I'd love to see a little bit more from, about what we can expect in Forza. I don't know that, they're really going to reveal anything that I haven't already, know what to expect, but just a hype trailer. It comes out in March. So I'm ready for that. Right. Like I'm ready for ready for a hype trailer.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, back to Nick's point, I think for me, for one category I'm really interested in looking at is best debut indie. And I know, Nick, you mentioned earlier that Stray probably, in your opinion, shouldn't be in the Game of the Year conversation, but I think Stray has a lot going for it, not just from its gameplay, but, here, I'm even going to kind of reference a local article here out of the Bay Area. Stray is inspiring campaigns for the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and people are posting on TikTok videos of animals actually watching and liking the game too, and it's helping them fund a campaign to support awareness of stray animals and adopt rescue animals and save animals. And even Sony donated $25,000 to this group to support this cause of rescuing animals and adopting animals instead of just buying them from a breeder. So when you kind of get like a social calling out of a game that goes beyond what the game entails, but it has a correlation and you're seeing that pop up in social media, it's hard not to root for something like that. So Stray's kind of got me rooting for them a little bit to win at least best debut indie game and have some success at the Game Awards.
Bruno, are you getting this? Brad's playing devil's advocate to save the kitties. I love it. This is a win-win situation right here,
Meow.
Say less.
Okay.
Say less. Okay. I love it.
I mean,
Actually,
I thought it was a feel-good story, but then we took a turn with meow. So.
No, well, hey, no, it is. It's a feel-good story, and it's fun when games kind of take on a meaning beyond just the intended purpose of it, right? But at the end of the day, I think we're judging these games based on the merit of what the game is actually about. But like you had mentioned, Brad, I do like that some categories dig deeper, like. Who has the best community? We talk about this in QTB all the time about, it's frustrating as a gamer because if you attach yourself to one game's community because, they have a good community, you're just stuck playing that game because you don't want to go over to that game because that game has a toxic community. And so it's good that the Game Awards are recognizing those who are combating toxicity, just like we are really for the gaming industry in general, rather than one specific games community. I think that's a great category. I'm seeing a lot of great categories in here. I will say, Bruno, I think we have to get your take here on the best sports and racing game. As our resident racing guy, we've got F1 22 in there, FIFA 23, NBA 2K 23, Gran Turismo 7, and the game you mentioned there, Ollie World, did make the cut for that. What do you see in there for who should come out on top?
So that was sports games?
Sports and sports/racing.
See, that's the problem. They should be two separate categories.
It's hard to put those in there because I feel like there are a lot of racing.
F1.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Well,
sorry, Bruno. I didn't mean to jump in there. I just feel like that's unfair to both games because I will give F1 credit that the realism that you can achieve with F1 with the amount of customization you have in terms of every step of the journey of what you do, especially then being able to have a custom rig to support your controls from a realism standpoint, you can't beat that with a sports game like NBA or FIFA because you're just using your normal controller, but it doesn't take it away from how real the graphics and how real the players can look in the what's designed in an NBA game because you're not sitting behind a helmet in a car, you're just you're actually seeing how the players are constructed in the game. But from a gameplay standpoint and comparison, I feel like it's apples to oranges. It's not really fair
Yeah.
to lump racing and sports, although it's in a broader sports category. I don't feel like it's fair to lump those all into one awards category.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially with games like, especially with the racing genre expanding in general. Like there was Art of Rally that came out recently. I don't know if that was technically within this year's cycle or last year's, but I did an article on that for Quit the Build, and I really loved that. It was a little indie game, a little indie racing game, and then you look at something like Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport and Gran Turismo. A lot of these sports games that came out in this category had rough starts. Madden had a rough start. I know F1 had a rough start, as did Gran Turismo. So do I think it's going to be either of them? No, probably not. I would say it's probably going to end up being like, FIFA. It's probably going to be FIFA. Yeah. You know, I think that NBA 2K kind of had a rough go of it too, you know, with that. And I agree with Brad. I think that the lumping together of those two it's a little odd. It's a little odd to do that. I'm not, I'll be the first to defend racing and say that it's a sport, but I also feel like it deserves its own. Yeah, it is. You don't see like like racing games, and then you see sports games, which when I think of sports games, I think of like FIFA and Madden and NBA, and when I think of racing games, I think specifically car, right? Whether it's, the Crew or, if I'm, running around in Mario Kart, right? Like it doesn't matter to me. So,
and I agree with Bruno. In terms of like the sports games, FIFA has always had the biggest following, and they've never done too much. They've never tried to rework it too much. Like they know what they want to put out there, and their core followers love it. And it's a fun, passionate game. The NBA games and the Madden games, they try to innovate too much to the point where controllers change each release, and players get frustrated because they want to be able to just play with the new rosters and maybe have a little bit of improvement, but nothing to the point where you're overhauling the controller system and you have to relearn how to play the game. And that to me makes that really invalidates like 2K23 or the new Mad one from being really in contention for that.
And that might be a very indicative, and this might be a, obviously topic for another discussion here, but I think that's indicative of EA, right? Like, because F122 is the same way. It's, if you played the previous games, they said that they upgraded the physics in this, but to me, it just seems like they just made it more difficult just to make it more difficult, right? Like there's a certain point where the AI in any game is performing unrealistically to up the difficulty in a way that makes it, harder for the actual player. So they'll be able to take more damage. You won't be able to shoot, or your bullets aren't doing as much damage to them, whatever it may be in that respect. Or the opponents are literally faster than you in some racing games, right? Like I can't tell you how many times you're like, oh, I should be, killing these AI right now, but no, I'm not. I'm barely keeping up because they've upped the same car, everything, and it doesn't matter because that's the way the game is. And so I think that EA has to do something in order to change these games to make them more interesting year after year. Otherwise, you really are just paying for that roster update, which we've already said wouldn't be a bad thing. But it's there's a lot there, from what I can tell from our conversation here in regards to Game of the Year awards, is that there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go for gaming. There's a long way to go for recognition in terms of the hard work that's being done behind the scenes for updates, like most improved game. Look at the story of No Man's Sky, right? From absolute train wreck to, a pretty amazing game right now, and that journey is something that unless you stuck with it, you would not know. And I that gives me hope for games like Halo, right? That gives me hope for some of these games that maybe have had a rough start, Overwatch 2 or whatnot, but I still think it's important for there to be recognition. I think that's what the game of the year awards are supposed to be, right? Right, recognizing achievements, recognizing excellence in an area, regardless of when it came out or when it was released. If it's doing well between such and such time and such time, let's give it some notice, right? Let's entertain some type of idea for this. Otherwise, you really end up pigeonholing yourself into, like you said, these contrived categories that you're like, okay, well now we got to have, best racing game at night. Best racing game. You're like, okay,
best racing game in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Best racing game sober. Best racing game drunk.
Well, it's Mario. We know what Mario Kart's going to take. Yeah. With Mario. Yes. Foods that end in hamburger for 200. That's right.
I will say the last category that I find interesting is best multiplayer. Another very general stated category.
Yeah.
But you've got Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Multiverses, Overwatch 2, Splatoon 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. So, I mean, look at that category. I mean,
if you need any other proof that there is pandering, that there is behind the scenes work with the juries and getting schmoozed, as they say, Overwatch 2. It's not a new game, guys. You're being played. Ironically, it's that's no good. Like Overwatch 2 should not be recognized as a new game, and it's a scummy business tactic that's being rewarded by the Game Awards. And it shouldn't be. If you're going to say that a game that's been out that long, shouldn't show up outside of the ongoing service model game or category, then Overwatch 2 should not be showing up. Otherwise, why can't I just take my Super Mario Brothers NES game there's already a 2. I don't know. Let's do. I don't know. Let's do
Fortnite 2 or
let's
Fortnite
do right.
3,
Fortnite 2. Thank you. And then Fortnite 2 could be. See, Fortnite should beat Blizzard at their own game. Is release Fortnite 2. It's the same game. It's just the new chapter. But we rename everything. We go through the proper filings. Then Bruno, you got your game of the year contender. It's Fortnite 2.
I like it.
It's Fortnite 2.
I like it. Quick take. Would we rather see Overwatch 2 multiplayer up there or Halo multiplayer? Which one do you think deserves to be up there more? One's actually new, one is just a reskinned watered down version of the other.
Often see
That wasn't the option. The option was one or the other. You got to pick one. Nick.
I'm abstaining.
I have to pick.
You have to pick.
Halo squeaks by on a technicality.
Sure.
It's actually a new game.
I'm there. That's where I'm at. Sure. If I have to pick, I'm with Nick.
The vote is in for Brad. It is sure. The winner is sure. Okay, great. Great.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate and I'll go the other way. I'd say that Overwatch deserves to be up there more than the Halo Infinite right now.
That's big salt.
I would say that if Halo Infinite is really going to claim if the multiplayer is really going to claim the badge of beta, then they shouldn't be recognized for anything until they're ready to switch that button on to not a beta.
Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, there's arguments to be made, I think, in either direction, but at the end of the day, what I do like about the Game Awards is that it does promote conversations like this and, shine some transparency. I think that the positives are, regardless of whether or not you agree with the categories, is that I think Jeff Keighley puts on an amazing presentation with the Game Awards. I think it is one of the slickest shows you're going to see anywhere, in an era of, digital everything and remote everything. I'm always very impressed by what I see, and I think he does a great job of seeing that and overseeing the Game Awards. I love the orchestral performances, the live performances. They book some big talent that shows up on there, to perform things, and some surprises as well that you may not expect. They had Green Day on there one year to celebrate them being in Beat Saber. They had all sorts of Imagine Dragons, I think, showed up there. Once they did the intro to the League of Legends
It's
show.
another step of getting games mainstream and getting them integrated into mainstream.
That's true.
Right? So this is part of that. Other industries have these poppin', as Bruno said, poppin' happenstance award shows, and if gaming can have one that makes them more mainstream and visible to a wider audience, then this is accomplishing that as well.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. I agree. It's at the end of the day, it's doing its job.
Quick shout out to my brother-in-law. I got to give him a little props. Dota 2's nominated in the best esports category. He's a big Dota 2 fan, so probably a dark horse in that category with some of the other games in there.
Yeah.
But gotta give him love that they got nominated at least. I know he's a big Dota 2 fan, so shout out to my brother-in-law. There you go. It at least got nominated. So,
well, Brad. I'll tell you who I would nominate for the best fans, and that's, of course, all our viewers and fans here that are tuning in live, wherever they may be, our amazing community here at QTB. But most importantly, thank you so much to our amazing Patreon supporters. I'm talking about, and guys, normally when I do this, I can barely get through it in a new breath. We've got so many new patrons. I'm going to have to take a deep one, so here we go. Thank you so much to our QTB and Fuego supporters like Epicapture Productions, Matt.Bat, Alexa, and our newest QTB and Fuego supporters, Caitlin, Josh, and Court Nene, and our QTB Plus supporters, Nick, the Dudist Monk, Indie Gamiacs, Alan Abadessa, Mr. Grove Games, the Intergalactic Pinecone, Fluffy Bunny, and shout-outs to our brand new supporters. I'm talking about Nizu and Ashley, who just supported at the base tier as well. I got through it in one breath.
Whoa,
guys, thank you so much for your support. Patreon has really been blossoming lately. We got tons of great bonus content there for you. We did our exclusive Vegas episode that you can only hear there, behind the scenes of everything that we were doing. Great conversations there. And of course, get that merch. You already know, stickers, mugs, t-shirts, posters. Go get you some that you can't get anywhere else. Check it out at patreon.com/quitthebuild. Awesome stuff. And of course, that shirt right there, Brad, where can they find that classic QTB purple shirt?
quitthebuild.com/merch. I mean, you got to go check it out. And the holidays are fast approaching. I know I say it every time now, but every show, you got to get that Quit the Build ugly Christmas sweater. It's there right now. It's in the shop. Limited time only. You got to get it. Multiple colors, multiple options. It's going to make your holidays that much better. I just have to say.
Yeah. And I think we got to give a huge shout out here live. We don't normally do it live, but I mean, you want to talk about a super sticker? Josh just sent in a $50 super sticker. Thank you so much, Josh. We appreciate you. There's just lots of ways to support us here at QTB. We give you options. If you want the merch or, our TikTok streams or Patreon, there's lots of ways to do it. And the best part is you're always getting cool stuff in return. So, I mean, Bruno, I think there's never been a better time really to be a part of our community as fast as it has been growing, and just an amazing group we have here, the Discord especially, right? Just and our live chat here on YouTube.
I mean, there's only one thing to do, Nick, and that's play one of the most banging beats from the 90s ever. If you don't know this show, then I'm not surprised because there were like 6 episodes on Nickelodeon. It was called My Brother and Me.
But it was on all the time.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And everybody had the weirdest names, and they were all like the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th. They all just took on their father's and their father's name.
My Brother and Me, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, but you guys have been awesome. We're so excited to keep bringing you awesome content. QTB is growing so much right now. I'm excited for what's to come, and just be sure to check us out, quitthebuild.com. Every week we've got a new podcast episode. Nick's doing some streaming over there on TikTok. It's awesome.
That was a
what
vibe.
What else is there to say?
I was into that. I was vibing, too. Man. Yeah.
I was
great.
too. Well, okay. I guess the only thing left is the little thing that Brad likes.
That was deep. Yeah.
You know what that means? It's time to wrap it up.
Yeah. It's time to go, everybody. It's been amazing. Man. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Nick and Brad, I'm Bruno.
For Bruno and Brad, I am Nick.
And for Nick and Bruno, I'm Brad.
Peace out. What it do? Woohoo!
Let's put 10 seconds on the clock for that pair of Skechers.
Quit the Bill.